Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 159. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Today, we're talking about Monster Hunter Wilds, The Last of Us, Spider-Man 4, Daredevil Born Again, and more. But as usual, we will begin with our recent activities, starting with me. We are not talking about Split Fiction this week. We will talk about it next episode just to make sure that we are both finished with it. I am a lot further ahead than Damien, so I think it would be a little bit of me jumping the gun if I were to just talk about it on my own and everything like that. But it is very, very good.
Yeah, like from the stuff I have played, it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, such as the co-op stuff, you gotta wait, for the other person to be ready and stuff. And sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to do that right now. I want to do this, and it could be a whole thing.
Yep. I know that.
It's really fun though. Yeah, but it is a really fun time. I'm loving it. So just as a little like teaser when we actually talk about it, it's very good. So
if you like It Takes Two, there's really nothing wrong with Split Fiction. If not, it's basically a lot better. So. Yeah. But anyways, what have I been doing? I guess I'll start with video games. So because I have to wait for my girlfriend for when we want to play Split Fiction, I was like, what other game can I play in the meantime that could also be for video? So I was like, oh yeah, Slide 3 came out on the PlayStation 5 along with Slide 2 at the end of last year, and I never got around to playing it. So I was like, you know what? I haven't played Slide 3 in a while, and the 20th anniversary is coming up in September, but I'll just play it now, make the video now, whatever. And I just finished episode 2 this morning. And yeah, I mean, this is my first ever Sly Cooper experience, so I have a lot more nostalgia for it, just going around the first hub world, pickpocketing people and all that stuff. And, a lot of the missions as well, because this is the only Sly Cooper game. I mean, I guess Sly 1 technically as well. But, out of the Sucker Punch trilogy, Sly 3 implemented mission replay. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, I remember replaying a lot of these missions a lot. And on top of that, because of, like, the extra challenge missions that they give you for, like, 100% completion. So, I just have a lot more nostalgia for this game than Sly 2, admittedly. So I can't wait to get into, like, the further levels, even with, like, the pirate stuff and whatnot. Because I remember when me and my brother had to like figure out like what the hell is going on here. We got to like read and like figure out these puzzles. Anyways, the first 2 episodes, very, very good so far. It does feel like a huge hodgepodge of just like everything Sucker Punch wanted to do for the franchise before they were like, all right, we're done here. But, for $10, I think that this is probably also like the best way to play it, just like performance wise, because it keeps it in the 4:3 aspect ratio. And also, I think the games run at 60 frames. I'm not entirely sure, but the games look very, very smooth. And I haven't really run into any major issues with it. There's a couple like, I guess, like graphical things that look a little funny, but this is definitely like the best way to play the Sly Cooper games today, I would say, is just get them on the PlayStation Store for $10 a piece, PS4 or PS5, and
yeah, like I love the Sly trilogy, and Sly 3 is also very good, but it's mostly just the pirate level that gets a bit too like it's really cool, and I could tell Sucker Punch put a lot of effort into that one world, maybe a little too much because it just kind of drags on for like way too long. But besides that, Sly 3 is really good, and it kind of suffers the issue a lot of like the 3 games do, where like they add so many gimmicks and stuff where it just becomes a little too much. I think like Sly 1 was a little too like, it was just Sly and that's it, and I liked it. But Sly 2 is kind of where it's like it got its real footing with like the more like bigger hub worlds, the mission based structure. You can play as 3 different characters, and to kind of expand on that. With 3, I felt like they try keep going bigger and bigger, and that's kind of where it kind of like falters a bit. It's kind of why I like Ratchet 3. I know I'm biased, but Up Your Arsenal, it always feels like my favorite out of, like, I guess the 3s of the other trilogies or whatever. Like Sly 3, I like Sly 2 more. For Jack, I do think Jack 3 probably is better than Jack 2, but also not. That series is weird. I need to replay that series again, because Jack 2, like, I do think it's the best one, but also, like, that game it's kind of fucked, too.
Yeah.
But with, Ratchet and Clank 3, I feel like, I think it just kind of keeps the core what makes Ratchet good and kind of just expands from there. It adds the multiplayer stuff, which I really enjoyed back in the day, but yeah, Sly is great. I do want to make room to actually play Sly 2 and 3, because I already played Sly 1 when it went on PS5. So I would like to do the same for Sly 2 and 3 at some point. So, because again, if you haven't played the Sly Cooper trilogy, it's fantastic. I don't know if we'll ever get another one, unfortunately, but it would be cool if we got remakes or something at some point. So, but yeah. Sly, really good.
Honestly, and I also forgot that like I was playing them with like the emulation features that you can like rewind and stuff. So like I think that's at a certain point within episode 1 when I was climbing like that Octavius like billboard or whatever, I like fell, and then like I accidentally did the rewind. I was like, oh yeah, I can like rewind. So like all of these times that I've been like dying or like failing missions, I could have done that. But yeah, I think that even if they just did like a sample like collection of just like these 3 games without like the emulation features or whatever, like I think that would be totally fine. But hey, you know what? They're on the PlayStation Store. I'm not gonna complain too much. And yeah, Sly 3 definitely taking me back to my younger days of goddamn 20 years ago.
Jesus Christ.
And because Daredevil Born Again is back on the air and we have now seen the first 3 episodes, there have been things and theories out there and whatnot. So I decided to jump back into the modern Daredevil runs and started to read Daredevil by Ed Brubaker. And the reason for this is because at a certain point, very early on within his run, there is a single issue called The Secret Life of Foggy Nelson. So this has had people sort of theorize of like what the fate of that character is within that show. And it's because of the apartment outside of Nelson, Murdoch, and Page is 468. And within the grand Daredevil sort of like numbering, 468 is that issue. And it alludes to Foggy faking his death. So it was like, oh, okay. I think I did read that, which I did. I actually did read that before I dropped it, like all of those months ago when I was talking about sort of Bendis and all of that stuff with the sort of Daredevil run. So I went back, I reread from the beginning of Brubaker to like get context, because you cannot read that single issue and fully understand what it meant for this version of Foggy Nelson to like fake his death and everything like that. And his death was a lot more gruesome because at the beginning, Matt is in jail for being accused of being Daredevil. That's like a huge thing within the comics that they haven't showed within the show yet, is that like Matt Murdock and Daredevil are very much like a little too intertwined, where at a certain point within Bendis's run, it's like in like newspapers where it's like Matt Murdock is Daredevil kind of thing. So Brubaker is sort of jumping off of that point, and he does a very good job about it. And sort of where it goes from there up until Foggy is revealed to be alive to Matt, I think that it is a very good mystery, and I really do like how they did it there. I wonder how they're going to do it in the show, if at all. But, we'll see how that goes. But overall, Brubaker's run on Daredevil, I dropped it a few months ago after I finished Bendis, because I think I was just burnt out on just reading Daredevil. So I was like, I think I gotta like stop reading Daredevil for a bit. But now that the show's back on and everything like that, I am very, very hyped and excited, obviously. And I just finished reading the Without Fear 6-part arc, and that was very good. I was honestly very surprised where that arc was going, not to like give away spoilers or anything, just in case people want to read it. But yeah, I mean, people talk about Brubaker the same way that they talk about Frank Miller in terms of like Daredevil sort of writers. In my opinion, these are my top 3 just because these are like the only major 3 that I've read, which is Zdarsky, Bendis, and Soule. Soule is definitely the weakest for me personally, because I think it started off strong with like Blind Spot and Muse, but I think it started to teeter off a bit, especially when it started to go into like the Mayor Fist stuff. It got a little bit too comic booky for my taste, but I could see where it was going. I know I still got to read Wade and obviously Frank Miller, but right now those are like my top 3, and Brubaker's definitely up there. I think he's definitely better than Soule in my opinion, but I definitely have more to read, and apparently there's some other crazy batshit stuff that happens within like the next 15 to 20 issues, however many I have left. But yeah, obviously I'm very Daredevil pilled, and we will talk about more about that later. But yeah, Daredevil comics. If you like Daredevil, I think that if you want to jump off from like the Netflix show or even Born Again, I think Zdarsky's run is like a very, very good jumping off point, is what I'll say. So
yeah, like I'm sure we're gonna talk about it more when we actually talk about the show and stuff. But yeah. I've been reading a lot of things that people have been bringing up from the comics you've been reading and stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see stuff happening. But again, I'll go more into it when we actually talk about the show. But yeah, I've been thinking like you probably know more about it than I do, because I've just been reading people's fucking crackpot theories and stuff. So yeah. All right, so for what I've been doing, I'm actually going to say my Sonic Wilds for a little bit, because I have more to say about that. So first thing is Sonic Unleashed Recomp. So this came out of fucking nowhere. It was like, I think a week or 2 ago, that this just dropped on Twitter. Some dude like recompiled all of Sonic Unleashed. And So basically, it's like an unofficial PC port of Sonic Unleashed, and this is something people wanted for like forever, right? Because there wasn't really many ways to play Sonic Unleashed unless you were playing on original hardware or you were playing the Xbox Series X or S, sort of like backwards compatible mode, and all that did was like make the game 60 FPS, but it was cool, right? But it was mostly like the same. Like it's like the game still I think was at 720p and stuff and whatever, and I think it was at 60 frames only because it was using its like boost mode thing that Xbox had for some of the backwards compatible games. Mm-hmm. But for a long time, that was the only way to play Sonic Unleashed on like sort of modern consoles, and that was locked to like one console that not a lot of people have, to be honest. So when this finally came out, it was amazing because I'm like, where was this? Where did this happen? And yeah, I did the installation process pretty easy. I mean, you do need an official copy of Sonic Unleashed and sort of rip the ISO file from it, if you want. There's other ways to get it. But yes, you need the ISO file, and you would need like the DLCs and the sort of like the title update, like just a generic update for Sonic Unleashed. You just plop those files into like this nice little launcher they made, and then yeah, you can start playing Sonic Unleashed on PC, and it's amazing. It looks beautiful. Like I don't believe they redid any of the textures or anything. Like it's mostly just like they upscaled it. I don't think it's upscaled. I don't know what the fuck they did, but it's like the resolution is like modern resolutions now, so you can play like 1080p or 440p or whatever the fuck. It has like some other features you could do, like you could turn off the battle music for Werehog, which is amazing. Holy shit. Like, I never got to appreciate the nighttime music a lot in Sonic Unleashed because, it's always going to play the stupid battle theme all the time, which isn't even bad. But after like, the 50th time you hear it, you're like, oh my God, I just want to hear like the actual like stage theme. And yeah, a lot of the nighttime music is really good. And, this just runs like a dream. Like it could run well over 60 FPS, but I think the game breaks after a certain point. So I just kept it at 60. And yeah, the game just looks beautiful. It runs super well. All the cutscenes look really good. There's like super ultra widescreen support you could put now. Like people are playing this shit on VR. Like they were playing on the Steam Deck. You could play this shit anywhere. So yeah, these people did a fantastic job just bringing this game to like sort of like a modern setting where basically anyone could play it. And I'm about like halfway through it. I want to finish it before this, but then I played a lot more Monster Hunter Wilds and shit. But and Sonic Unleashed is still really good. I've always been like an Unleashed enjoyer. Like I've always really enjoyed Sonic Unleashed.
Yes. When me and Damian were young, bro, we were like the only. I feel like Sonic fans online that really appreciated what Unleashed was, even through its flaws and everything like that. But I'll digress.
Yeah, because I don't even know how old we were. I think I was like 2008, so I was like 10 or something. Yeah. So like we were like in 5th grade, 4th grade or something, and I remember the hype cycle for this game like super well because I remember the teaser with Sonic had the ring and then his fucking Werehog hand came in and shit. I remembered I didn't have. It came out on 360 first, and then it was on like Wii, but I only had a PS3 at the time. So I bought the Wii version, and Travis had a 360 version. And I remember going to his house and being like, yo, this game looks fucking sick. And I was stuck with the shitty Wii version. It wasn't until like later I was able to get a PS3 version because that was the only console I had at the time. But, just playing this game now, it's still really good. Honestly, it like surprises me how well they kind of nailed the boost formula in the first game. Like I'm like, wow, these levels feel really good. The game looks beautiful. It probably still is one of the best looking Sonic games since probably like Shadow Generations. Like I think Shadow Generations is probably the first Sonic game I played in a while. I'm like, oh wow, the game looks great. Because I like Frontiers, but that game kind of could look a little not great at times.
A little gray.
Yeah, a little gray, and a lot popping and stuff. Like Shadow Generations looks fantastic, and this game also just looks really good. Like Generations has some good moments, like regular Generations has like good like levels, like set pieces or whatever. But Unleashed always looks really good, and now with like the enhanced like sort of like resolutions and stuff, it looks fantastic. Like every level feels so good. When you're in these daytime stages, like the sense of speed you get is just like unmatched, even from like all the future games like past this. Like it's great. Like the daytime levels, I can't say enough good about. And then the nighttime stages, I've always like never hated the Werehog. Like I thought it was fine. The levels are a bit too long. I always forget there's no drop shadow when you're playing the game. So, any other platformer, when you're jumping, you see your shadow on the ground so you know where you're landing. Yeah, you don't have that as Werehog, which gets really annoying later because like the platforming gets a little intense. But yeah, honestly, I've never mind Werehog that much. And now that you could turn off the battle music, it makes those stages a lot more enjoyable. I will say if you do find Werehog like repetitive, I say level up the combat like sort of like skill tree or whatever. Because, if you're just spamming the same 4 moves over and over, it does get really boring. But once you level up that skill tree, you get some really cool combos and stuff. Like, it doesn't really do anything, but it looks cool. So there's that. And, just the whole game just feels like a whole package. Like, you have the hub areas, you have the story and all this shit. Like, it just feels like a really good, complete package. And I feel like the last time a Sonic game has felt like that was probably Frontiers. Frontiers. Sorry, I always get Forces and Frontiers confused. Forces is bad. Frontiers is good. Frontiers I think also had like that big complete package. There was Shadow Generations packed with Sonic Generations, but things like regular Generations and Colors might feel a bit like, I guess, a bit more lean compared to Sonic Unleashed, where it just again feels like this whole big adventure or whatever. So if you're interested in playing Sonic Unleashed, I think this is the best way to do it. And it's really funny seeing Sonic fans, like newer Sonic fans, play this for the first time and like sort of go through like the same thought processes, like their thoughts on the Werehog or like all this other shit, the Sun Medals and Moon Medals, which do suck. I saw some people like defending Sun Medals and Moon Medals. I'm like, nah, like that ain't it. Like I could give Unleashed a lot of credit, more credit than it probably deserves, but collecting Sun Medals and Moon Medals like suck ass, especially like in the daytime stages. Like I just do it all in the nighttime stages because I like some on Twitter it was showing like some crazy locations where these medals are in daytime stages. I'm like that's why I never had enough as a kid. I'm like, what the fuck? So anyway, Sonic Unleashed Recomp is really cool. If you have any interest in playing Sonic Unleashed or playing it for the first time or whatever, then definitely try it out. I think you can just download the Recomp thing, like it's on like GitHub or whatever. So and then find other means to get the files you need. So yeah, very, very, very cool project. Again, Sonic fan base always super cool whenever they have to do stuff like this. Like, they complain about Sonic quill sizes and his eyes all the time, but when they actually do like cool fan projects, they nail it out of the park every time. So yeah, Sonic Recomp is really cool. And then like Split Fiction, like I said, we've been playing that. We're gonna talk about it more later, but I just want to say like the first 2 worlds I did were fantastic. I think Haze Light did just like nail it every single time. Like this really is just like It Takes Two basically. Like it's the same exact structure, but they go even more crazy with it. So just to put my early thoughts there, it's fucking amazing. I can't wait to play more of it. All right, now Monster Hunter Wilds. So this is like the main thing I've been playing. This is more of a sequel to Monster Hunter World. Obviously we got World, then we got Iceborne, which is expansion to World. We got Monster Hunter Rise, and now we got this game. So sort of like the big features of this game was like the whole open world thing and like there's like the crazy weather and stuff, but for the most part it mostly is just world. And as a Monster Hunter game, I think it's great. Obviously I think Monster Hunter has such a core just fun gameplay loop of you find the monster, you kill it, you get its parts, you do it all over again, right? Just really fun boss battles, all that stuff is still there, but it just feels a bit bigger this time. And, I think a lot of the new features they added are cool, but I don't think they really amount to too much. Like the whole open world thing is like, you have like a multiple areas, just like other Monster Hunter games. And now they all connect seamlessly. Like you can go from one area to another without any loading time or whatever, but they don't really like do anything with it. Like most of the time when you're hunting a monster, they're going to stay in their area, just like a normal Monster Hunter game. Like if they actually move from area to area and you like use like the whole world to sort of like get this fucking monster and kill it or whatever, I think that would have been pretty neat. And they might still do that in updates or in the expansion or whatever. But I feel like they never really utilized that fully. And that's kind of how I feel about a lot of the features in this game, like a lot of the newer features. Like same thing with the weather. Like the weather is sort of like this big thing. They were like, oh, like sometimes like a big ass lightning storm could come up, and then like new monsters come out, and like the weather hinders you or whatever. And that is true. Like a big monster does come out if like certain weather stuff happens, but that's really about it. Like the lightning storm one, nothing really changes too much besides like you might get struck by lightning every now and then, but like I forget if it's even a thing. Like I mostly just spawned the weather so I could like hunt that particular monster. Like it doesn't really mean much. Like some of the other areas is like, oh, it gets more hot or whatever, or it gets more cold and stuff. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but it doesn't really like amount to much. I'm trying to. They also have like the pack monsters or whatever. Like sometimes a monster could have like an alpha and then followed by a bunch of other like smaller versions of itself or whatever. But that also doesn't really mean much because I think there's like one alpha monster in this whole game and that's it. And Monster Hunter isn't really built for like tackling like multiple monsters at once like that. So you just use like a dung pod, which like kind of just puts all the monsters to like go away or whatever, and then you just fight the monster one-on-one. So like I feel like a lot of the big features of this game like don't really like matter too much. It just it just feels like a really good Monster Hunter game. Like sort of like the biggest features that actually do matter are the Sacred, which is like your little mount you can ride on. This is a new Rise had the Palamute, and it kind of works the same way, except it's even like kind of a bit more overpowered because whenever you get knocked down, you could just call your mount to pick you up, and you could just kind of get out of danger like all the time. So that does feel a bit overpowered, but it's a nice addition to the game. And then you have like the wound system. So whenever you attack the same weak spot of a monster, you can open up a wound, and then you could do like a focus strike and do like a big ass like fuck you move, right? So both of these additions are a lot of fun, and I think it makes the combat really smooth and like engaging, but it does make the game very easy. And that's another complaint you see a lot about this game is the difficulty. Monster Hunter is usually like, it starts off like not too hard. Like starts off like you gotta know the controls, you gotta know the monsters, but it has a nice ramp up. But this game like kind of ends before anything gets too hard. Like there's like 2 hardish bosses at the end, but even then they're not like too bad. And obviously, I'm not that concerned about difficulty because I know they're going to add updates. They're going to add the Master Ranking expansion, which is going to make everything a lot harder. So I'm not that concerned about it. But, to a lot of people that just got off of like Sunbreak or Iceborne, which are like the Master Rank versions of those games, like it's obviously going to feel like a lot easier compared to those games. But I do agree, in general, it does feel a lot easier than the previous Monster Hunter games just because you have so many tools to deal with these monsters. And I feel like they don't have anything to like kind of fight you back with. Like the wound system in general, again, I do like it, but like you just do so much damage, and you can like chain stagger these monsters. Like if you're playing with a group of 4 people and you're all popping these wounds, that monster would like not get up, and you just bully the poor thing. So I do hope they add like more difficult stuff later, and apparently in early April they are going to add like sort of like a new difficulty thing. So again, difficulty is not like a major concern. It just kind of is right now if you really want to sink your teeth into the end game, because like there isn't like a lot to really challenge the player, and it kind of makes getting like the strongest gear not feel as like necessary, because it's like what am I grinding for right now? So besides that, I think it's a really good base for the future. And I don't think the game's like unfinished. Like I really like Monster Hunter Rise that came out a few years ago, but that game definitely felt unfinished when it came out because the game didn't even have like an end to its story or anything. And I know that was because it was in development during COVID, so like I give that game a lot more slack. And I do like Rise, but I do feel like this game does feel a lot more complete. It's just kind of missing that more challenging aspect to it, which I think Rise did have a bit more challenge to it than this game did. And people were complaining that Rise was too easy as well. So I don't know. Like, they obviously want more people to play this game, get people into Monster Hunter. And obviously that fucking worked because I think this game was like the top 5 most played Steam game when it launched. It had like a million.
Yes, a million.
1,300,000 concurrent players or some shit. I'm like, holy shit. So obviously Monster Hunter is a huge series now. Also, the elephant in the room is the performance issues. On PC it's like a disaster, and on PS5 it's okay. I put it on balance mode, so I think it's like 40 FPS, but like it never drops below 40. So it looks fine to me, but like a lot of the textures are pretty muddy when you look closely at it. Like when you're fighting a monster, like everything looks fine, but whenever you're talking to NPCs and stuff, it looks a little like whack. Oh, and that was the last thing I need to talk about, the fucking story. So yeah, there's a story mode in this, and it's like whatever. It's like super railroaded. Like usually other Monster Hunter games, you could do quests whenever you want, you could explore, you could fight whatever monsters you see. And this game, it's very structured as like sort of like this cinematic, like, more what you would think like, maybe like a Sony first party game or something like that. Like they want to bring a lot more attention to the story and stuff. And like, it's fine. It just railroads you a lot. Like it's just like, okay, do this, do that. Like I felt like I couldn't do anything until I beated the story, which is like at least 15-ish hours. And then after that, I was able to like do the thing I wanted to do, which was just kill a bunch of monsters and shit. So like, and yeah, again, the story is nothing to write home about. It's like the same Monster Hunter stuff. Like, oh, the ecosystem is all out of whack. Kill the big monster. Okay, you did it. Now everything is fine. Like that's basically what the story amounts to. Obviously, there's a bit more stuff in this game than the other games, but it doesn't really amount to much. And I just don't think it was worth putting such an emphasis on the story if it's still not gonna like tell anything too grand or whatever. It kind of just slows the pace. And then playing multiplayer at the start is such a pain because people can't like join you if you're in cutscenes or whatever. So you would like join them for like a 5-minute hunt, leave, do the story, come back, and it's like so disjointed and bad. So yeah, I hope like next time just like it's one of those series where I don't think it needs a story. Like who cares, right? Like you're just there to fight monsters, right? And this is coming for someone that loves story in video games. I just don't care about this stuff in Monster Hunter. So, but besides that, the game is great. Like I think it is like the best feeling Monster Hunter yet. I'm very excited to see all the updates Capcom does because it's a great foundation, and I can't wait for harder content and all that good stuff. And yeah, I really enjoy it a lot. It's very addicting. So yeah.
So would you prefer it if it was more like the story missions were treated more like side missions where it was like optional?
Yeah, well, not optional, but like just like quick. Like, you know, the other games, it's like you mostly do like a set piece and it introduces you to the next area. You do it, and then that's about it. Then you kind of could do whatever. And the old Monster Hunter games, it really was just quests. Like, there really weren't any difference between a main story quest and like a side quest. Like, they were basically just that. Like, you obviously have to do it to unlock new stuff, which is fine. But like in this game, it's a lot more presented to you like a normal game. Like, oh, just do the story, right? And I just feel like it just, you know, it just feels like it's too railroaded and like doesn't give you enough freedom. Mostly when the game is like all about like exploring the wilds and all that shit. So yeah, it just feels a little bit out of place. But besides that, I think the game is fantastic. You know, I think it's another great introduction to Monster Hunter. If anything, its difficulty being lowered is a great like you know, newcomer game for the series. You know, like I think World was the best at first, and then, you know, Rise came out and that introduced some newer like new player stuff, and this game I think is like the best way to introduce someone to Monster Hunter, just because it's not too difficult. But if you're a new player, you might still die a lot, which is, you know, good. But as someone that's played a lot of these games already, like I could like get through it pretty fast. But yeah, either way, Monster Hunter Wilds really good. I really enjoy it.
Noted. All right, so let's get into the general news of things within gaming and entertainment. So first up, we got a rumor. It is speculated that right now Gears of War Collection is going to be coming to Xbox Series X/S, PC, and PlayStation 5. The big thing here is not just only it coming to PlayStation, but also there won't be a PvP multiplayer mode. So my guess on that claim is the fact that when they launch the next Gears of War game, which honestly I fucking forget now.
E-Day?
Yes, E-Day. When they launch that one, it's probably also going to be cross-platform, and they want that one to be the big multiplayer Gears of War game. And they don't want people to sort of stick on to this collection for multiplayer, because maybe they saw what happened with Halo and sort of what happened with, you know, people hovering to those games for the multiplayer. But I think those games had maybe more of a rich multiplayer nostalgia experience. Anyways, so, you know, as someone who grew up with the Gears of War series when I probably shouldn't have, I am kind of excited to see that this collection be made, whether it does come to PlayStation or not, just because I feel like there aren't a lot of great modern ways to play them with, like, you know, nice, pretty, shiny graphics kind of thing. They did remaster the first game years ago for the Xbox One or something like that, but they never did 2 and 3. And, you know, every time I think about, like, the Gears of War story, I think it was like, I think maybe I'm just dumb or fucking blindsided because I haven't played a lot of like shooter games lately, but I feel like Gears of War is like the last shooting game that really put an emphasis on the story and actually executed it pretty well, because the characters within the Gears of War series and its universe are very rich and very enticing. Like, people actually do like Marcus Phoenix, Dom, all of this other stuff. So, you know, if the games do come to PlayStation and PC and everything like that, I'm going to be buying it, because I think that it'll just be a fantastic way to not introduce new players to the series, but also just have people like me who haven't had a Xbox console in years to revisit them for the first time in probably over 10 years now.
Yeah, like, you know, I played, I think it was 2. I think I played 2. I didn't play through the story, but I remember I played a lot of the horde mode and like some of the multiplayer as well. And, you know, I always heard like the story was really good. I think my brother played through like the first 3 or whatever. And then they did like some spin-off one and then like 4 or whatever. I don't know.
Yes.
It got a little confusing afterward. But either way, you know, people do really like this series, and I actually would like to play it through it. Like, you know, I was really thinking like, I should play through like the Halo campaigns again, and like, you know, if this comes out, I should really play these Gears of War stuff, because I feel like that generation of consoles, like I played a lot of PC stuff during that time, so I felt like I really missed a lot of like PS3 360, like late 360 stuff during that era. Like I feel like I just played so much PC during that time. It wasn't really until 2017 is when I started playing a ton of single player stuff again, and like I kind of kept up since then. But I feel like that like 13ish to like 2016 era, like I kind of just missed a lot of stuff. So I would like to go back and like play all that. You know, like the only time I would go back is like, oh, is a new Ratchet and Clank game out? Yeah, I'll play that. So but yeah, I would really like to play these games. And, you know, I think the rumor of like the no multiplayer thing is kind of weird, but whatever. Like, hopefully horde mode's still there, because like horde mode is like, that was always such a fun time. And, you know, I feel like Gears of War really like made that popular, like, because you see horde modes everywhere now, and I feel like that was the game that like really made it like a popular game mode, because you know, Halo took it with Firefight, and then like a bunch of other games took it as well, and it's just a fun time, you know, just slaughtering a bunch of guys with your buds, you know, it's fun. So So yeah, like if it does go on PS5, I definitely would pick it up. I mean, I don't know if I get on PS5 or on PC. Usually with cover shooters, like I don't mind playing them on like console because like you don't really need precise aim to begin with. But
yeah,
we'll see. And this really is like we already talked about this with Microsoft, like kind of just being like, okay, we're kind of like out of the race at this point. I know there's rumors of like one more console of theirs coming out, and that's kind of like a make or break. But we could already see them like sort of like putting that stuff on other consoles, so at least people know the IP and they get some money from these fucking series, right? So, but either way, it's good for everyone. Everyone could enjoy these games, and I know people have been asking for a Gears of War collection for a while now, so it's gonna be nice to finally have it on all platforms. But yeah, so next we got some like more entertainment stuff. So Sadie Sink is gonna be set to start in Spider-Man 4. So we don't really know yet. A lot of people said, she's a redhead, so it's like Mary Jane or Jean Grey or whatever. But no one really knows for sure yet. I thought Mary Jane like instantly because I'm like, oh, like red hair, sure, I guess. But yeah, we don't really know yet. And we also don't know. We still don't know what Spider-Man 4 is even gonna fucking be yet, right? Because like we talked about before, there's so many rumors of it street level or like more Avengers or fucking multiverse shit or whatever. Honestly, it does make you a bit concerned it is going to be more bombastic just because it's so close. I think it's the last movie before the 2 Avengers movies, right?
It might be sandwiched in between there. I have no idea what they're doing.
See, so I feel like it kind of has to be like an Avengers level fucking threat at that point, right? So, which is, I just feels like the wrong time for it. And I don't know whose fault it really is. Like, I think it's just like the Marvel content schedule just got so messed up because of the whole Kang stuff and the whole multiverse saga really imploding on itself, that they kind of had to quickly do like an Avengers stuff to get people excited again. I mean, even things like Brave New World is like kind of like this weird in between. Same thing with Thunderbolts. Like they were like probably made with like that stuff in mind. But now we have to like fit it into this new like Secret Wars and all this bullshit. So it's like kind of hard to like have anything breathe at the moment. And, I think that's what made the original Infinity Saga so good is because they really took their time to really set everything in motion. I mean, at first, they didn't even know what they were doing. They were just wanting to, like, pull all these movies out there and, like, kind of connect them a bit. But once they started getting to the Infinity Stones, it felt like this really fun journey to go through all of that. And then when they finally fought Thanos, it was like this, felt really cathartic and stuff. And now it feels like they want to just, like, redo the magic in, like, a fraction of the time. And it's kind of why I think the DCU always, like, failed is because they kept wanting to rush these Avenger level threats in like 2 movies. I'm like, you can't do that. Like, you gotta build something up first, right? So, but regardless, with Spider-Man, we still really don't know anything about Spider-Man 4 or what's gonna be about. All we know is that it's happening. So, we'll see if if she is like Mary Jane or they're gonna connect to some other stuff. I don't know. We're just gonna have to wait and see. I think there was also a rumor that like his other 2 friends, like Ned and, MJ, are supposed to take like a backseat as well, which makes sense. But, because they like wipe their memory or whatever. So, I guess we'll see how important they are into this like new Spider-Man story in general. But again, it would be a good time for a street level thing. But, just where it's sandwiched in between like these 2 Avengers movies, I really doubt that's going to be that,
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the first time that like other MCU movies have been sandwiched in between the Avengers films. I think between Infinity War and Endgame, I think it was Ant-Man and the Wasp and also Captain Marvel, I believe. Yeah. So, and those movies were nowhere near after Infinity War. Ant-Man took place right before that. And then Captain Marvel was like a way back sort of film. So they could do something with Spider-Man 4 in that regard. But having Sadie Sink, I think that she is one of the better actors within the Stranger Things cast. I mean, her performance within the last season was like insane. I think that, that entire sequence, everyone knows what the fuck I'm talking about with the whole running up the hill song playing in the background. That was an insane moment and honestly got me really emotional because of everything going on, but also her performance within that specific moment. So, to see her now come into the Spider-Man world, I have no idea who the fuck she's going to be. I hope it's not Mary Jane, unless they want to just reset a sort of Tom Holland's cast of characters surrounding it, which would be fucking crazy because you guys had Zendaya doing MJ as well. So I think I think having Sadie Sink be Mary Jane of some capacity would just not work, in my opinion. And then some people are saying, oh, she might be Jean Grey because that's another fucking redhead character. And I'm like, don't fucking introduce the X-Men here. Like that. Let's not do that now. You know, like I hope that whatever role she has, whether it's a new original character or one that ties into the comics within some way, shape, or form, I hope that she just is able to do her job and just do it very, very well, as she has always done, right? So, you know, whatever the case is, you know, as a Daredevil fan, I would love to see, you know, Kingpin, Matt Murdock, all that stuff within Spider-Man in some way, shape, or form, because it's pretty much impossible for him to appear within Daredevil Born Again without, you know, sort of Sony's obviously grubby little hands touching it or whatever. So, you know, the only way that will happen is if it's in a Spider-Man movie. And Spider-Man 4, I have no idea if that's actually going to be the movie where they try to do that, because it seems like everything's kind of up in the air in terms of what this movie is going to be about and everything like that. But we'll just wait and see. I'm going to just let them cook. And I hope that, you know, this is the first Spider-Man actor to actually get 4 movies within a trilogy kind of thing, you know, to actually get a 4th Spider-Man movie. And Tom Holland is a very good actor, and he's very protective of Peter Parker. So I hope that whatever Sony and Marvel sort of come to, that it is in a agreement and it is good. That's just all I want. I just want a good fucking Spider-Man movie and something that is street level. But, you know, I know that Sony loves the fucking multiverse bullshit because it makes money. Woo, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of hard because, like, I think Spider-Man has been positioning himself as more like this weird multiverse hero at this point. I feel like a lot of his recent, like, stuff has been, like, not just him, but, like, a bunch of other stuff happening. Yeah. Which is fine. Like, I don't personally mind that. But, you know, it has been a while since we had, like, a solo just Spider-Man, Peter Parker thing, but maybe some other street level hero, right? Like, I feel like back when we were younger, that was just the norm. Like, that was just what he did. But, you know, now that he's able to mess with all the other heroes, like in, like, you know, other media that's not comics, like, you know, you just see that way more often now. So it would be really nice to see him at that street level thing, because, you know, they basically soft rebooted it anyway in the last movie. So it would be cool to see that.
Let's not squander it, guys.
I feel like it's the perfect time to do it. I feel like if they don't do it now, I feel like it'll be weird to do it later. So but, you know, we've been saying this forever, so let's just see what they do. Like, we'll see. Because, if anything, Daredevil's giving me that fix anyway right now, so whatever.
Because they're never going to get this opportunity again where a live-action Spider-Man actor, he has gone through 3 movies already, and on his 4th one, no one knows who he is. No one knows who Peter Parker is. He's alone in this world. That's never going to fucking happen in any capacity within live-action Spider-Man. And within Tom Holland's sort of universe, right, there hasn't been a street-level Spider-Man movie featuring him since Homecoming, and that was in 2017. And we're approaching 10 years on that movie, and I'm fucking old. So please, don't fuck up Spider-Man 4. That's all I'm asking. But yeah. Now let's talk about The Last of Us, because we got a little bit of juicy news. So first up, we got Neil Druckmann. He, during this Variety article talking about HBO The Last of Us Season 2, which is a very, very good piece. Sort of towards the end, when asked about the possibility of The Last of Us Part 3, he was like, look, you know, and his quote is, I guess the only thing I could say is don't bet on there being more of Last of Us. This could be it, end quote. So, yeah, I mean, I'm guessing the reason why he's saying this now is because now that they're laying out sort of what the HBO universe of The Last of Us is, he's like, can I take this story further if I were to make another game? And he's like, well, now I have to consider what that game version of Ellie is, and sort of, can I continue that version anyways, et cetera, kind of thing. Right. And I feel like the show has given him the sort of avenue to really flesh out these characters as much as possible. And when we end within HBO's The Last of Us, whether it's season 3, season 4, or maybe even season 5, I don't fucking know how long they're going to be doing this show. But I feel like once he's done with this, he's like, okay, I think I'm done with The Last of Us, which I think is fine. That's totally fair. He's been on this fucking franchise along with Naughty Dog for like years and years and years. I think it's fine to put it to bed where it is. And I understand the people also that are like, but I want a Last of Us 3, because there is a little bit of story that they could go in, but I think the ending that we got in part 2 is also fine. You know, I think it's fine to just end it there. But yeah, what do you think, Damian? As someone who's much newer to the Last of Us series.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on like where they want to go with it. Like obviously they're making like intergalactic now, so like I don't know if they want that to be more of like their thing now. I always thought it was weird The Last of Us even got a sequel like to begin with. Like it just doesn't feel as like natural to make a sequel to it. Like maybe for 2 because Ellie grew up and she had to face the consequence of like what Joel did and all that good stuff. So it makes sense to have a sequel like that. But doing a 3rd game, I don't know. Like, I still think they're gonna do it. Like, cause money and like, they want to like do stuff. Like, it really wouldn't surprise me if we do get like one more Last of Us game just to like make a trilogy and then end it. But I do feel like they kind of want to pivot towards like intergalactic and sort of make that more of a like a franchise, I guess. Because Uncharted made sense because it was like going on different adventures and stuff. Jack and Daxter had their trilogy, so I feel like they want to kind of move forward towards like a new IP at this point, which makes sense. Like you said, they've been doing Last of Us for like 10 years now or more than that. It came out like 2013, I think.
Yep, 2013.
So so it's been like 12 years since they've been doing Last of Us, and I mean it's crazy they only had 2 games, but the games take forever to make. So there you go. So yeah, I guess we'll see. I personally think there is going to be one more Last of Us game because like he already talked that there was going to be one, and I saying that there isn't. So maybe you're right. Maybe things change because of the TV show. Maybe he wants to like expand the story through that medium now instead of a game, but then it'll get weird, so I don't really know. But yeah, personally I think there's gonna be one more game, or maybe the television show will sort of like do its own thing after this Last of Us 2 arc because they have no more source material at that point. So yeah, honestly like the series is in this both this good spot and kind of this like weird spot where it's like the show's gonna keep going probably for at least another season or 2, but then after that, then what, right? Like it's kind of just over until there's a new game, unless they start making up their own shit, right? So
yeah, and I think no, Druckmann has said that he doesn't want to go past where the games are, but minds could change, decisions could be moved around or whatever, and maybe he does want to tell maybe a little bit of extra story, maybe like a season's worth of like what happened to Ellie after she went on that path for revenge or whatever, right? So we'll have to wait and see. And then I guess that leads us into The Last of Us Season 2 trailer that we finally have, a full-length trailer to just give people a preview of what's to come. Obviously, to those who know, it's like pain, suffering, and that's all I know. But I think this trailer does a very, very good job, just like the previous teasers regarding Season 2 does a very good job of keeping everything vague. Like, people who just watch the show know one way, but people who have played the games know another, right? So, and I think they're still going to be able to subvert expectations and sort of give extra backstory to certain characters and maybe flesh them out and turn them into sort of different characters slightly, go in different directions, etc., etc. So I'm excited. The cast is very, very good. I've been watching a couple of interviews regarding them and how excited they are to, see the show finally come to fruition. But yeah, Season 2, I still have no idea where it's going to end, but I have a good feeling that it's going to end in a spot that people are going to want more.
Yeah, like I am excited to see how they really do flesh out all these characters and like give them like more complex like character arcs and like just spend more time with them. Because again, I think the weakest part about Last of Us is like it is a video game. Like, and I don't feel that way about like a lot of video games, but I do feel like this medium just fits this like franchise better than it being a game. Like obviously, like I think the first game balances it way better than the second game. Like I think the tense moments make more sense, and like obviously there's still like some parts that feel a bit arbitrary, but I feel like in 2 definitely feels a lot more like okay. Like I feel like at this point it would just be better if it was a movie or something, right? So and I think this show could do that very well. I mean, like, I thought them adapting the first game to the first season of the show was like fantastic. Like I think there's some parts where I'm like, I think this might be a bit better than the show, than the game at some points. And I think with the second season and beyond, I definitely think it could be better than the second game at this point if they really take their time and sort of flesh everything out. I never even hate Abby, but like I think they could do a lot more justice to that character and make more people like feel for her in this than they could in the game. So, but we'll see because that's a whole can of worms with the game. So hopefully the audience for the TV show aren't as rabid as the games are, but I guess we'll see once the moment happens. So yeah, but either way, it is a really good trailer. It looks really good. Still like a lot of like amazing set designs, and the all the fungal people still look good. All the infected look really good still. So I'm really excited to see where the they take the story in a different direction maybe. So
yeah, and I cannot wait to see Caitlin Dever play Abby, because they're taking her in a very different direction. People are now complaining that she is not buff within the show, and when the game first came out, it was like, oh my God, what the fuck is this buff lady, whatever, So, it's going to be very interesting to see how the fan base turns on that decision and sort of how that story gets played out. Because I think them potentially making her a lot more similar to Ellie to get the viewers to buy into her story more, I think is a very good decision and a very smart one at that too. So yeah, and the series is going to start premiering on Max April 13th. So we are less than a month away from that. Very, very exciting. All right, so now let's get into the big thing. Can't believe we're fucking here, boys. Daredevil Born Again, episodes 1 to 3, spoiler discussion. We're going to be talking about anything and everything spoilers regarding the show. But, just first general thoughts before we dive into individual episode breakdowns. I really like it. Obviously, going on Twitter after the 2-episode premiere, seeing everyone just complain and sort of have their gripes with it, be like, oh my God, it doesn't look like the Netflix show. Here's me doing some quick color grading and all of this other stuff, which, props to those people. I think a handful of those edits did look good, but the way that I view this show is sort of how when you're reading a comic book, which probably a lot of you don't, or it can't relate kind of thing. But when you're reading a comic book of a character and then it goes from one writer to another or one creative team to another, it's the same thing like that. But it has the same characters, has the same actors that you know and love. It's just a different team in a different direction that they're going in. And it's still good. I think the 2-episode premiere was definitely needed. Just because now we know that episodes 2 and 3 were originally the first and second episode. So they kind of just shifted everything over and inserted this new first episode to give viewers more context and actually see what the fuck happened, but sort of bridging the gap between season 3 to Daredevil Born Again. But yeah, overall, so far so good, especially episode 3, maybe recency bias or not, but episode 3 fucking cooked.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think episode 3 is the best one so far. And I also really like the show. I do think, like you said, it is different. And I think once I have that in my head, that it is going to be different. I felt more okay with it. Because when I watched the premiere, I liked it, but I'm like, it feels off, right? Like, and it is going to feel off because, it's different, right? Like, I think the opening of episode 1 felt the most like the Netflix show. Even now, like that was like, wow, that was very good, right? But then after that, you could tell they were really trying to put everything together, like fit the continuity into the show, like because this was written without the Netflix shows like in mind when they were first making it. So now you could tell like where they inserted stuff, or maybe where they added some action scenes, so it isn't like so like cut and dry the whole time. That you could just feel them like sort of like pacing everything together and make sure it works, and it does work for the most part. But you could feel me knowing the production history of this show. It does make it like yes, I could see like where some of the growing pains are gonna be, but I do know that this is probably the only season that's gonna suffer from it, like as a detriment or whatever, because the next few seasons I know they're gonna have full reign on it to like make it whatever the fuck they want, and even then it's still good. Like I still really like it a lot, but you could tell like where they put stuff in and how to fit the characters in and stuff, because there's some characters that, I feel like I felt like the game written out, but then like I know they're gonna come back. It's just they can't come back yet because they already filmed all this stuff in between. So it's hard for them to come back, right? Not getting into specifics just yet, but I think overall they did a really good job. Like you said, especially episode 3. Episode 3 was very good. So yeah, I'm very excited to see where the show goes from here, and I do think they have like. They know what they're doing, I think. It's just going to take a bit of time to really, really fully appreciate it, with all this, like, stuff they filmed already before, okay, we're bringing the Netflix stuff fully and all that shit. So I think it's going to be really good. So, yeah.
Yeah, because, I believe the first episode and the last 2 episodes, 8 and 9, those are brand new. Like, those are things that they did after the overhaul. So that's new stuff. And that stuff, from what I heard from other reviewers that have watched the full thing, is that is what feels the most like the Netflix series, is like the finale. And like, season 2, it's all new stuff. They aren't pigeonholed into the old footage. And even then, the old footage is still fucking good,
it's still good,
episode 3, very, very good, which we will get to. But, just getting into this first episode, fucking boy Foggy, man, everyone knew this is like the worst kept secret ever, but Marvel tried their best to sort of hide it from the public, but everyone had a feeling that Foggy was gonna fucking die, and he does. And I'm glad that it was sort of as quick as it was, sort of just have Bullseye just snipe him out and have him be the first one to take the shot, not him be like the last one or whatever kind of thing. And that whole Bullseye fight sequence that was like a sort of like a one shot take was also pretty cool. A lot of people were also complaining about like the use of CGI and a lot of the smoke. It's kind of hard to see what the fuck's going on there, but I don't blame people for sort of making those complaints because it was kind of hard to see. And also the use of CGI within a Daredevil show is fucking new. Like that is not something that people are used to. And, you know, people digging up like old clips of like the Netflix show showing like Matt actually like running across rooftops and like, why do we have like the CGI devil just like running across like pitch black or whatever. But, you know, like just him like being on like that sort of like scaffolding was fucking aura. He was just aura farming and like I know it looked weird when he got on the building and then he fell. Like it definitely looked weird. But man, I just fucking love that they are bringing the sort of athleticism to Daredevil within live action, because that's something that I was completely missing within the Netflix show. Maybe not completely, but you know, like Daredevil would just show up from like one place to another and you wouldn't see him like swing around and like do all of this other crazy shit, because you know that's a lot of what happens within the comics is like you'll see panels of him like swinging around with his billy club, yada yada yada. So you know, I just love that we are able to get that kind of stuff, but I do understand people criticizing the CG for what it is because we're just not used to it.
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed. I'm like, oh, they're using CG for that. And it's not really a problem with the other two episodes. Like, at least I haven't noticed anything. It's mostly just this one. And I think that's more because, like, you know, again, this episode and the last two were, like, you know, they had to just make to, like, fit stuff in and stuff or whatever. But it was still, like, you know, I think that fight scene with Bullseye was still really good. It's just like, yeah, some of the CG could look a bit jarring because, like you said, we haven't really seen that at all in the Netflix stuff. Like, it was very few times I had to use CG, and in the Netflix stuff, it usually looks like not good. Like, you know, whenever in Defenders and whenever Iron Fist has to use his stupid little hand and like kill people or whatever. But you know, with Daredevil is just something that's new, right? And I'm sure, but if they do more swinging segments with the Billy Club, because you know that's a thing he does like a lot, just not in the Netflix show. Hopefully, it looks a bit more natural, or we just get kind of used to it. And I think we will. But besides that, I think the fight with Bullseye was really cool. And I'm happy it was like Bullseye that comes back. Again, like, you know, it makes sense that this would be a thing that would happen. And even Foggy dying to him also makes a lot of sense. You know, if all this was in like, this is basically all like, if the Netflix season 4 opened like this, I would be like, yeah, this is great, right? And same thing with this. I'm like, yeah, this feels like, oh yeah, this feels like a natural continuation of what just happened, right? And, you know, I still got compliment, you know, like Foggy's acting was really good. Karen is always so good at acting. She's so good. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, just like her with Foggy and then her looking to see who fell, being like, oh shit, I hope that wasn't fucking Matt. So like all that shit was really well done. Matt's like sort of like just pushing Bullseye off the fucking building and him God, being like, I'm done with it. Like all of that opening scene was just amazing. Like them doing the whole opening scene, I'm like, oh, they get it. Like, and that makes me really hopeful because that's the new stuff they filmed. And I'm like, yeah, they know what they're doing here. And I think they nailed all the emotional things, all the characterization, all that stuff was really good. Just seeing them all together for at least 10 minutes being happy, that was nice before everything goes to shit because no one in this universe could be happy. But yeah, it was very good. I really, really like that opening sequence. And I know I'm a Foggy enjoyer and he's gone. But again, Travis brought up the faking his death thing, but I don't know. That sounds like cope for this one. He looks kind of dead. So, but we'll see if they do it because I saw someone put the panels side by side and it is kind of similar. So we'll see. They could do it, but you know, it makes sense to do. Yeah, we'll see. It makes sense because they're not going to be in most of this first season because, you know, again, it was filmed before before all this shit happened. So, yeah. You
know, Daredevil fans are theorizing, you know, Karen's in San Francisco because she's watching over Foggy and she left Matt there after the sort of trial real quick. She left after the trial real quick to make sure that Matt couldn't like dig into her and like figure out that like she is lying, that like Foggy is alive, all this stuff. Anyways, you know, there's a bunch of fan theories out there in terms of like what's going to happen to Foggy because it is confirmed that both Deborah Ann Wool and Eldon Henson are returning for season 2, Karen and Foggy. So, you know, we'll see what's going on there. It has been confirmed by a lot of the sort of people working on Daredevil that Karen is going to have a much bigger role within season 2 now that she's like officially in the fucking show. So
good.
Maybe that'll deal with Foggy. Who knows? Maybe it's just a new original story, but yeah, I mean, Matt just throwing fucking Dex off the roof after that. I was just like, oh my God, like that was like so shot because, you know, we don't really see him like do that on purpose, you know, just try to kill someone, obviously. So I think that being the catalyst as to why he stops being Daredevil, or another option is that him just honoring Foggy's legacy, right? Because Foggy always wanted to go through the system, do things the correct way, and you know, him just trying to be Matt Murdock is like his way of doing that post his death. I was like, shit, you know, like either way, whether it's him sinning for trying to kill Dex or him just honoring Foggy. Both of those angles are just great, fantastic. And I love that, we're going to further explore that within the upcoming episodes.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way because I think it was in this episode where he looked at the church and just went in because it's like,
yes.
or maybe that was the second one. Yeah, because, he felt like he did something so horrible because he tried to take someone's life, and that's like his whole thing is to not do that. And then just jumping the gun a bit on episode 3 when he's just like, they do the whole court case or whatever. And he's just like, like I had Foggy, always had, got to do things by the books or whatever. I mean, that's a good way to start incorporating that too. So it's kind of like both reasons why I think he stopped being Daredevil. One is to like honor Foggy, to do things, by the system and stuff. He was already saying that in season 3. And then, with the church, like he still hasn't even went to the church yet because he just feels so bad about what he even did. So I think both of those things like were really well done, and it showed like they have this stuff written in mind, right? Like they again, I think they do know what they're doing with this stuff. And that stuff where Karen also does make like it's sense in a crackpot theory sort of way, because I think that was the only time I got a little mad because I'm like I feel like it felt very like Karen like to just fucking leave after all that stuff happened. I feel like she would definitely like try her best to be there, even if like Matt or her was shutting each other out. Like I feel like I know it, like Matt was trying she was trying to get to Matt like hey, you're not like doing whatever or whatever. But again, it felt very uncharacteristic for her just to like fucking leave like and go to like San Francisco or whatever. So that was the only time like, oh, this feels like she's really getting written out at the moment, but I know she's gonna come back, so it's fine. So that makes a bit more sense. That was the only time where I felt it felt a bit off the writing, because I'm like that feels like something she wouldn't do, but she probably has a good reason for doing all the things she's doing, because she's been so well. So
like everything with Foggy, Karen, that's all new stuff. So they're probably planning things in. We'll see later on.
I know it's because like they filmed all of this, so she couldn't be there. Like I know why, but and I think they did the best they could, and like I think that opening sequence was really well done. And from the original like stuff they wanted to do, I think they weren't even going to mention any of this, or it was going to be mentioned like off screen or something. I'm like, that's terrible. So I'm glad they did this. So yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just flip the other side of the coin real quick, talk about Wilson Fisk and sort of what he's been doing. And the first episode, off rip, he's mayor. I was like, oh shit, we're just doing it that fast. So yeah, I thought that this would last maybe like an extra episode, sort of him trying to run for mayor. But by the end of episode 1, he is mayor of New York. So yeah, I mean, and also him just having conflicts with Vanessa, because Vanessa, during all of this time that he's been away, whatever that exactly means, sort of him being away from Echo, and maybe even before then, who knows, but him just being away and her taking over the sort of underworld empire that he had, and now he's like, we got to stop doing this because I want to be mayor, and she's fucking pissed, and I'm like, that's true. You should be mad at your husband for telling you to abandon all of this stuff, and that sort of creates a friction within their relationship, which, brings in Heather Glenn within episode 2, which was a fucking big shock to me. I was like, yo, what the fuck? They're going to couples therapy? But I really do like that they are having a rocky relationship, right? Because I think that creates, obviously, friction, conflict, and also just like great characterization and sort of show who these two characters truly are.
Yeah, I also like that he's, Kingpin is kind of going through the same thing that Matt's going through. Like, they're both like kind of suppressing like who they are, like Kingpin, suppressing Kingpin, and then Matt suppressing Daredevil. Like I think that's a really cool way to show both of them kind of like trying to lead more honest lives, with Fisk. Like he wants to make change, so he's going to do it through political means, and then Matt wants to have justice, but he's going to do it through the normal lawyer stuff, right? But obviously there's going to be a point where it pushes both of them to be like, okay, we got to do things the hard, we got to do things we got to get shit done, bro. So and I think I think that's a cool dynamic both characters have. I mean, I feel like the show always done a good job like sort of having this dual sort of like villain protagonist like sort of system with Fisk and Matt. Like I think it's really neat how they do that, and this season it's very obvious that's what they're doing, and I think it's gonna be even more cool because I don't even think Fisk is gonna be like the major villain of this season. Like we already know he's not. Like it's probably gonna be Muse or like these cops that we're gonna talk about later, but like it's really cool to see Fisk sort of like trying to lead like a more honest life, even though he still isn't. Like he's still doing awful stuff obviously because he's Kingpin, but like he is trying to do things more by the system. And then Vanessa is like, nah bro, like I want to be the Kingpin, bro. So seeing that dynamic is really interesting. And then them having the couples therapy thing is also a really cool thing to see because, throughout the other seasons, like Fisk was so obsessed with Vanessa and like, oh, she could do nothing wrong. So seeing this other side of their relationship where it actually gets rocky now, like seems like something that is needed for these two characters, especially Vanessa, because I feel like she was pretty absent throughout, like, you know, she was like a bit there in season 3, but she was mostly in like season 1, right? So
yeah. And you know, him mentioning Adam, this is another fucking crackpot theory that people are theorizing. Adam is Foggy or something like that.
That's crazy. If that's
like, like maybe she did something. Like maybe she hired Bullseye to sort of kill Foggy and then put Foggy under witness protection. And she's been calling Foggy Adam, and then Fisk is like, I know about Adam. So, because it also has to deal with like the Red Hook thing. Like they just keep mentioning Red Hook, but no one knows what the fuck Red Hook's about. So obviously it's leading to something that will probably lead into season 2. I don't think it'll get resolved this season, but yeah, that's like another crackpot there. But whoever the fuck Adam is probably gonna die. Like if it's actually like someone that she cheated on with, Fisk is not gonna let that shit slide.
Yeah, that man is dead if that's the case. Yeah, you're not gonna cut Kingpin, bro. You're done.
But you know, obviously there's sort of two sides of Daredevil, Matt, Fisk, Kingpin, you know, that sort of came into a big collision within the diner scene. That's something that they've been fucking hyping up this entire sort of press tour. They're like, yeah, you know, like we wanted them to come close and sort of have a conversation at the start to sort of bring them together, then bring them again together like later on or whatever. So obviously that diner scene was great. Peak, you know, it was also a way for them to sort of connect the dots of like what happened where, you know, Matt knows about Echo and you know, like that was like a nice line for them to sort of insert in there. It's sort of like, hey, yeah, like we are part of the bigger MCU and that stuff that happened previously is sort of accounted for within this show. But yeah, you know, that diner scene was just very, very good. That's all I can really say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that whole conversation, really good. I think they really nailed. I mean, both of these actors like know exactly what they're doing as these characters at this point, right? Like they are, you know, Kingpin and Daredevil, like just talking to each other like that shit, and it's so good. It's like what I talked about in season 3, where they have this like weird mutual respect for each other, and like, you know, they put each other in line if necessary. Like, you know, when Matt was just like, yeah, like, you know, if you step out of line, I'll get you, bro. Like, I don't even care what I'm doing. So, you know, that stuff was amazing as well. Like, yeah, like if there's anything you can say about this series, like you could say like these two actors, they fucking nail it every single time. Like I feel like they never sleep on the wheel. They're always giving it the A game and every scene. It's very good for both of them. So,
what do you think about the new characters that they've introduced? Kirsten McDuffie, Heather Glenn, and Cherry.
So I like his girlfriend. I think his girlfriend's pretty neat. I do think they get into a relationship really fast, but that's whatever. You know, he's a charming guy. You know, I don't blame him. So, but you know, and I think her involvement in the story is gonna be very interesting. With obviously with a couples therapy thing, that's a really cool twist that she's the one dealing with them, and then Muse is probably gonna be like obsessed with her too. So she has a lot of things going on.
Because he was at that book signing.
Yeah. So that's gonna be very interesting. I'm very interested in her character to see like where that goes. The other two I don't have like a huge opinion on at the moment. Like his other friend, I'm forgetting the like what was the other his lady his
Kirsten McDuffie.
Yeah, her. I know she's a comic character, right? Like I know like people were talking about her in the comics or whatever. But I feel like she did a little bit in the beginning. Like she you know, she's a little jokey and stuff. Like that's fun. But I feel like she hasn't had like a lot of moments yet. So I'm still like reserving stuff on her. Same thing with Cherry. Like yeah, he does like some of the detective stuff. Like they're basically like the not Foggy and not Karen a little bit.
Yes.
Like so, and like a lot of them don't really have a lot of time to really shine at the moment. So I'm gonna reserve judgment on them at the moment. But that is something I think the original series did really well, was the side characters, like I've always said. Even in the first 3 episodes, I really loved Foggy and Karen. Like they were very like super detailed characters that had like a lot going on, and they spent a lot of time with them. I think this show just has a lot more going on, so they can't like dedicate as much time to them just like talking to each other. Like obviously they're talking to each other, but it's more like just for plot reasons. Like they're not really getting to know them super well. Like I still don't even know what Cherry's deal is. So I'm gonna reserve judgment. Like, you know, I don't know if they're like, maybe they took out scenes because they want to just bring back Foggy and Karen and replace them later. That'll feel a little messed up. But for the most part, they do feel like just like Foggy and Karen replacements at the moment. And I don't have like a lot of things to say about them because they haven't really set up anything in general. So like I just don't have much of an opinion on them. Like, I don't want to be too harsh and be like, oh, they're bad characters, because I feel like they haven't like done much yet. But again, you could say that's a flaw because I think Karen and Foggy did a lot arriving in like the first 3 episodes they were introduced in, you know. So but, again, that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, with Heather Glenn, I think that she is a very good love interest for Matt. I wonder what her fate is going to be later on. We'll see. But yeah, so far so good. I think episode 3, she really did get a moment to shine with Matt, where she was, being able to make a toast and be like,
yes, that was very good. Yeah.
To your victory, and also to Foggy and all that other stuff. I was like, fuck, man, like that was so good. And also having her intertwined with the whole couples therapy thing, I think that was also another great way to bring her character into the fold. Kirsten McDuffie and Cherry are definitely like CW character inserts that people have been saying, because I was just like, yeah, they kind of are just like there for the plot. I think Kirsten might have a little bit more to do later on, I'm hoping. But Cherry, I'm gonna be a fucking Cherry hater right now. I feel like he's the weakest character in the show right now, because every time he shows up or pops in, it's just for like plot information. Like that's basically all he does. Yeah. He's just like, I'm gonna have you reflect on, you being Matt and Daredevil, like, should you be taking this case? Or like, he somehow has, because he's a retired NYPD officer, so he has like connections and all of this other stuff, and he knows how to get information kind of thing. So that's how he's just able to like exposition dump and like do all of this other random stuff.
Yeah. That's sort of my problem, because I feel like when Karen did her detective stuff, she felt like tooth and nail for like every piece of information. And it was also like a character you knew and stuff. This guy feels like he's just like getting things done, but like not in a satisfying way. And I don't really care, because whenever like Foggy and Karen did stuff, it really was like the B plot of the episode, but I still cared about it. For this one, it's like maybe one scene he does things, and then he just does it, and like there you go. Like the whole scene in episode 3, when they were getting the witness to the court thing, it was very reminiscent to getting Nadim to like the courthouse, but it just felt like I don't care as much. Like, I'm not for the case, like the case we were talking about when we talking about episode 3 is really good. I just felt like he just did it like really easily. I don't really care about this dude. So
I mean, him debating the cops was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, like he definitely feels like just like a insert character that they threw in there, because they were like, we're not bringing back Foggy and Karen for whatever fucking reason at the start of this new Born Again show, and now that they did the overhaul, they're like, well, we can't really reshoot the scenes, right? So they're like, we're kind of just stuck with him. But I do hope that his character does get better. I'm not saying that he should just get written out or anything like that. I think that there is a spot for him, and even if, because some people have like even said like this should have been like fucking this should have been Mahoney. And I'm like, if this was Mahoney, I'd be even more fucking mad, because it's like, why is his character now delegated to this? The reason why Mahoney was so good was because he was on the inside, and he was also on their side of the law, like their team kind of thing. So for him to also be like this retired cop to, just like get all of this information, I think that would just do a disservice to his character in particular. But yeah, I mean, and then I guess episode 2, real quick, we could talk about, like the whole final fight scene, I guess, in that apartment. I knew that it was coming because it's in all of the fucking trailers and
all the trailers,
yeah, pretty much every single trailer. But that Punisher tattoo, I was like, oh shit, they're planting the fucking seeds for this shit, which obviously comes into full swing within episode 3. But yeah, I just love that they are tackling this topic, because even though I haven't read it within the comics, I know for a fact that people in everyday lives are using the Punisher logo and that symbol just incorrectly. So I cannot wait to see how this show tackles that topic in particular.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Again, we see in the real world all the time, with like, the Punisher logo being everywhere for this type of stuff that isn't really what he represents. I think there was like a comic run where they even tackled this as a thing as well.
Yeah,
like
there's like a famous sort of comic spread that people, copy and paste on social media to show people that like, yeah, he doesn't fuck with cops like that, guys. Come on.
Yeah, Frank does not mess with that. Obviously, we know Frank is going to be here because he was in the trailers and stuff. So very excited to see that stuff and see them planting the seeds in this episode with like the corrupted cops, and see how that sort of ties into everything. I really do like that. I feel like this might be the major plot point, and then we're going to muse a bit later, because I always like them when they have to deal with like the fucking system just being fucking corrupt. Same thing with the FBI. I thought that was a very interesting plot point, and I'm happy to see it like in this show, just dealing with more Punisher stuff, because I think the Punisher stuff in season 2 was like my favorite stuff from that season. So I'm very happy to see it back in this show. And again, I'm hoping Karen does come back by the time probably not by the time it happens, but Karen and Frank's like interactions were so good. So I really hope they get to like see each other again, because I love that shit. That shit was so good in season 2. But but yes, like, and of course the action scene was great. It was brutal. It looked great. Blood everywhere. Matt screaming. Like it's great.
I deadass thought he killed them, but I was like, that wouldn't make sense because like how would he be able to go to court the next day? So we see the officer in episode 3 just have a black guy.
Yeah, it did look like he fucked them up. Like, my brother was watching too. It's like, holy shit! Like, are they like, did he kill them? I'm like, I don't think so. I'm like, that unless he like totally went off the rails. But yeah, the fight scene was great, and I think from the original show, like, I think it was more so to play it more straight, like they just kind of keep going, and then like maybe the corrupted cops were a thing, but this feel like they did added it in to have some action, and it was great. I think it reinforces the story, like these cops are awful. They try to get, kill all these witnesses and all that shit or whatever. Like, I think it really sort of like nails like the tone of the story, and like you still have some of that vigilante justice, but Matt still wants to do things by the law now. And, I think he's playing that into it. Like, he wasn't Daredevil yet. He was still just Matt protecting himself because these assholes are dickheads. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I do think episode 2 did feel a bit better in terms of like just like pacing and stuff, because I think episode 1 felt
stitched together. It felt super stitched together.
It felt very stitched together. Episode 2 still kind of had that problem. Like, I feel like a lot of scenes couldn't breathe. And I feel like this problem has mostly gone away in episode 3. Like, I think episode 3 is the best paced episode so far. But I do feel like they want to just fit in as much stuff as they can, because they're like, okay, we got to connect. Again, I keep saying this, but I connected the Netflix stuff to this new show that wasn't originally written in mind with this stuff. So it kind of makes for like some conflict and some stitching together of stuff that feels a bit weird. But for the most part, I thought episode 2 did feel more tight and more of like what I would expect from like Daredevil, like moving forward. Because I feel like all the stuff after the opening of episode 1 did feel, like you said, very stitched together, and like, okay, we just gotta do all this shit. And then episode 2 felt like, okay, now we're getting the plot rolling,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to, I guess, like backtrack a little bit, White Tiger's introduction, rest in peace, Kamar de los Reyes. He put on a fucking performance, not just within episode 2, but especially episode 3.
Yeah.
And also his introduction here, just like be really quick comic book nerdy here. Cause after I watched episode 3, I was like, I gotta reread Trial of the Century to anyone that wants to read that comic book run. It pretty much is what episode 2 and 3 adapted from Brian Michael Bendis's Daredevil. So yeah, pretty much White Tiger is accused of killing a cop, but this time within the show, because in the book he is in the costume. So within the show, he's just fucking, Hector. He's just Hector. So for him to get caught doing that, and then obviously have the system treat him the way that he is being treated, is like, okay, yeah. And obviously having Matt represent him is also another layer of sort of storytelling that they are adding on there. And I fucking love it. When Matt represented him in both the show and the book, I was like, okay, yes. Like, I love this shit because, obviously Matt knows better than anyone sort of what the sort of dual vigilante life is, and sort of seeing this introduction be the way that it is, I loved it. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, it's basically him just like looking at a mirror and being like, all the stuff that he was doing as Daredevil, and like he's trying to push his sort of like lessons onto him. And, and he just, he's like, oh, this is like who I am and stuff. And I think Matt is like starting to realize that, he can never really get away from Daredevil. It's like what I talked about last time. Like Kingpin can't get away from being, or Fiskin can't get away from being Kingpin, and Matt can't get away from being Daredevil. That's just kind of who they are at this point, is like their nature. Like they're just always going to default to that no matter how hard they try to fight it. And, White Tiger was just like, yeah, nah, this is who I am, bro. Like, I'm not going to stop doing this. So I thought it was really good. And like the actor, great too. Sucks that, he passed away sadly, I think like a year or two ago from cancer. So, that really sucks, but that's just like how it is. It's because he did really well in this these 2 episodes. Like it's really sad that he's no longer here, but that's unfortunately how it is. But the rest of the episode was really good. I think they did a good job sort of setting up the sort of the ball of like what the major plot points are going to be, because that's where you see Muse as well. Like this is where you see him talking to the therapist, I believe, or was that episode 1? I'm not
episode
sure.
2, yes.
It was episode 2, yeah. So you see all the seeds being planted, and I love that. There's so many plot points you could take this with. Matt's personal stuff, Mayor Kingpin, the corrupted cop stuff, which seems like it's going to be the major plot point from this season, and then Muse and stuff. So really cool to see all these things rolling, happening in this episode. So
yeah. One thing I want to talk about before we get to episode 3 is the fist scene when he's like talking to Chief Gallo, the the chief of police and that whole fucking Philly cheesesteak thing.
Yeah.
I was like, the scene, I was like, what the fuck is going on? This is so goofy. This is so stupid. And then he shows that photo and I'm like, oh, okay. He's doing Kingpin stuff. All right. You know what? He's trying to blackmail this sort of chief of police to sort of stay on because he was like, he came in all fucking hot-headed. He was like, I am retiring midnight tonight. Fuck off. Half of the force is coming with me. And then he's like, well, I got this shit. So then he was like, all right, well, guess I'm staying on in. He's getting no pay raises, no overtime, no nothing. So yeah, Fisk is still a fucking asshole, and I love that. Even though the scene definitely didn't catch me there at first, because I was like, "What is happening here? Like, this is it's such a weird tone for the character."
I thought
but
so
it made
too,
sense. It definitely made sense by the end of it.
Yeah, it definitely felt very like jokey and not as like serious as like what you usually expect from his character. You know, it felt more like what you would expect from like just a normal MCU thing, but I think they kind of nailed it towards the end. But yeah, it was very like, okay, like I get it.
But, and shout out to BB. You know, she also told him about Gallo potentially retiring, and that's what caused him to show up to the funeral and sort of have that discussion with him, which like fucking Gallo ate him out. He fucking ate him out. He's like, I'll see you later, Kingpin. I was like, oh fuck, this guy does not care. But obviously,
my man was not playing around. Yeah,
obviously Fisk wasn't playing around either. So, you know, I just love to see that back and forth go on. And, you know, I guess to quickly talk about BB, you know, I think that her interviews and sort of her little snippets of like New York City and all of that other stuff, I think it's great. You know, some people may not like the aspect ratio change, which, you know, I think that's just like a stylistic choice that they're going for, just so you know that this is like the BB report kind of thing. But I do like also the fact that Fisk is using her as a way to get through the news kind of thing, you know, like not go through like mainstream media, you know, because we see that within today's world kind of thing, you know, they are going through social media and these other outlets to sort of get the information and their opinions out there. So, you know, I really like it.
Yeah, I think her segments are pretty nice. Though it also does feel like sort of like a splitting Karen into two different characters type deal with Cherry and her being like, you know, because Ben Urich's whole thing, like, you know, like letting Karen do that stuff, and then like now he has his niece doing it, and then Cherry doing like sort of detective stuff. That's also a thing Karen would do. So I felt like they kind of just split her into two characters. But you know, I think her character feels a lot more natural than Cherry does because he's just a guy. So yeah.
All right, so episode 3. So the reason why this episode is so fucking peak, even though there's not any action, I think, like there's not much action. You know, you got a couple people getting shot at, you know, people dying or whatever, but there's not like a action sequence, if you will. It's just so good because Matt is working the fucking courtroom, and the way that the plot thickens and sort of how it progresses is like straight up peak, straight up cinema. So like I said earlier, with the whole trial of the century comic book, you know, they knew that Hector was White Tiger. And obviously within here, you know, they were going to try to use their witness, fucking Torres, goddamn Nicky Torres, fucking druggie or whatever, you know, they got him to the courthouse, and then he just lied. He just lied on the stand. He didn't say that he was working with those cops as a informant. So Matt, you know, they go back and they were like, shit, we're kind of pinned, you know, we could only hope that like Hector could really like pull through for them. And then Matt's like, fuck it, I'm gonna just say that he's White Tiger, even though he went to the sort of even though he was like, we cannot use this information against him because he wasn't wearing the amulet, and then he was like, hey, sure, we're not using it, and then he used it during court, and you know, he sort of just put everything into a bind, as they put it, and I was like, okay, I love it. I like that shit. You know, just Matt just stirring up the pot, getting his victory in the most legal, ethical way that he can.
Again, it's like, you know, in a Netflix show, you didn't really see a lot of the lawyer stuff. Like, I think season 2 is probably the most you saw of it with the Punisher stuff, which was really good. But besides that, you saw like some stuff, but it was mostly like Foggy picking up a lot of the slack during that time. So it's cool to see Matt be like an actual good lawyer. You know, he's a really good lawyer, all that meme stuff. But, you know, it was good to see him like really like, you know, like work the jury and be like, hey, this is all this stuff. And the only reason he pulled out the White Tiger stuff is because, you know, the stupid witness didn't want to like tell the truth. So he's like, okay, I gotta like fucking double down on this shit. So it was like the only way to really win that case. And I think, you know, it was just good not political. It was good like courtroom drama stuff, you know. It was just like fun to see him work the courtroom, like you said, just like get everyone on his side. Even some of the cops are just like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, he did say whatever. So I think it was just a really, really solid episode with a lot of like just good of that courtroom drama stuff. And, you know, it does show like, you know, the original show did have like a good sort of like thing going on, like, you know, not the original Netflix show, but like whatever the vision was for this show, like, because, you know, this was really good stuff, but I think intermixing it with the Daredevil stuff is definitely like needed as well, right? So but yeah, I thought all this stuff was really well done. You know, White Tiger's actor did a fantastic job as well when he was doing the witness stand stuff, just like, you know, saying like, you know, I help people because that's what I do, you know, so like,
because it's the right thing to do. Yeah,
there you go. So you know, I thought that stuff was really good. So and then, you know, towards the end, you know, he fucking dies. But
bro, man, when he got shot in the head, because like I knew that it was coming, because in the comics it was a lot more violent, I will say, because he was actually guilty. So
I heard about it. Yeah.
So what he does is that he takes, he like panics. He's like, I'm not fucking going in there. He like takes a gun, he runs outside, and then the cops just shoot him. So, you know, it was definitely a lot more gruesome. But I like the way that this show did it, obviously, was to like give people hope. Be like, oh, look, guys, look, they won the case. You know, Matt goes back into the courtroom. You know, he sits down like his church. You know, he's messing around with his little horn. You know, I love that scene as well. And then it's like, you know, he's celebrating. You know, they're having a great time. The system worked, guys. The system worked. And then, you know, he's on first night back. Fucking dead. I was like, God damn it. And I love the way they did it. They did it so subtly. Like, you don't even see that guy, like, when you're watching it. And then he just pops up, bang. And then the second twist, when he fucking walks towards the camera and it's the Punisher vest. Okay, they're fucking cooking with this plot line of using that symbol in the incorrect way, which is why Frank is coming back. And I cannot wait to see him come back, whether it's next week, episode 4, or later on. He is going to fucking be a menace. He is going to not let this shit happen with his symbol, with his sort of, you know, name as the Punisher. He does not want to be associated with these dirty ass cops. So yeah, you know, and I just love the way that they did it. You know, also having the tree frogs also play within the background. You know, it's all nice. You know, you're like, oh my god, you know, like we won, and then boom, we're just gonna fucking take that shit away from you because this is Daredevil.
Yeah, you know, I do like, you know, it is very reminiscent of the court scene in season 3 as well, where, you know, they do everything by the books. You know, Foggy's like, yeah, we did it by the system. It's going to work this time. And then, you know, everything goes to shit anyway. And then, you know, Daredevil got to intervene a little bit. So I do like that as reminiscent of that whole sequence as well. And, you know, just having the whole Punisher corrupted cops angle is very interesting. You know, like you said, I'm so excited to see Frank back. Like, he was so good in season 2, and I can't wait to see him back into the fold in this one, and see kind of how they deal with it. And, you know, I'm also curious how like Matt is like, my theory is that I think Matt and Kingpin are probably going to end up like sort of like working together a little bit, like, because I'm like, how is he gonna get like new suits? Because in the trailers he has like 4 fucking suits now or whatever the fuck, and like that obviously doesn't come from nowhere. So I do think they're gonna have this weird temporary truce or whatever to like take down some of these people and like, you know, sort of go from there. So that's always been my theory when I first saw that trailer, like, because Kingpin isn't really aiming to be like the major bad guy of this season. Like, they're building up to that, like, you know, maybe like in another season or 2, like he is going to be the main antagonist again. But I do like they're kind of playing into this where Fisk is kind of like just the second main character, and now they gotta like sort of like team up a bit, because, you know, at the end of the day, they do both want New York to be a safe place in their weird ways. So like, and you know, they both care. But that's why Kingpin is such a cool, interesting character, is because he's a bad guy, but he also does care about New York and like New Yorkers and stuff. It is this weird dynamic, and of course Matt cares about that a lot as well. So, and obviously these corrupted cops and I guess Muse later aren't going to be good for that shit. So, and obviously he hates vigilantes too, but he's like, oh, if I could control them, it's fine. So, but yeah, very interesting stuff they got going on. Can't wait to see Frank. The whole Punisher angle with them like killing, you know, all these people because like, yeah, I'm a badass. Like, that's, you know, hopefully they fucking die because they suck. So yeah, I guess we'll see. But yeah, very solid episode. Like, this was definitely the best episode of the season so far. You know, had good drama. The pacing was excellent. You know, I thought the last 2 episodes had a bit of pacing issues, but this one, all great. Loved every single second of it. And it gets me very excited to see where the show goes from here. So
yeah, man, it's ever since the 2-episode premiere, it's been a long 7 days. It's been a long 7 days every single time, because I'm just like, let it be 9 p.m. Tuesday so I can watch another one of these goddamn episodes. But yeah, I just cannot wait to see what happens next. Some people even theorize that like maybe Muse has something to do. Maybe he like kidnaps Vanessa or some shit, which is why, Fisk is like, you need to fucking stop this motherfucker. This guy's the actual like sicko serial killer. So, but yeah, I cannot wait to see when Muse finally comes into the story because, they've been doing little sprinkles here and there and sort of how that goes on. But yeah, I just can't wait to see how they adapt the rest of the story. And, next time we talk about it, we're going to have episode 4 and also 5 and 6 because they are dropping 5 and 6 together. I hear episode 5 is a potential filler-ish episode. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I cannot wait to see what happens next. And obviously, the future of this show because, I think a lot of people were super duper down on it just because of, they just wanted season 4. And like, I think you just need to put those expectations you have aside. Cause I'll admit when I first watched episode 1, I don't know if it was just like, I didn't feel like I was still watching Daredevil. Like, like this shit doesn't feel real. Like we are here with the new Daredevil series kind of thing. Right. Or there was something genuinely wrong with the episode. But I've fucking rewatched all of these episodes multiple times in between. And yeah, I think so far the show is very, very solid. I think to anyone that sort of wants to jump into Daredevil, do not start with this show. Definitely start with the Netflix show because you could set up your expectations for what this show is going to do. And also it is a very loose continuation of where that series left off. Obviously there's other things in between there, like, the No Way Home cameo, She-Hulk, Echo, etc. But, I'm not going to worry about that continuity shit right now. I'm just worried about like, this is a good show. I'm enjoying it. And I cannot wait to see where the story goes from here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's some references, like, Kingpin mentioned Spider-Man, which was fucking awesome. Like, obviously, I would love to see Kingpin and Spider-Man fight because that's, like, a thing. Like, I would love that. Yeah. I know this, he said Officer Morales as well. I don't know if that was, like, specifically for, like, Miles' dad or whatever, but...
I think it was just a generic-ass name that they put in there.
Yeah, I know. People were saying on Twitter, like, people are very confused if it's, like, an intentional reference or whatever, but either way, like, I'm happy these things, if there are references, they're just references at the moment because, they have a lot on their plate already. So I would rather them focus on making a good Daredevil show than rather, like, putting it to the wider MCU. Like right now, they're having trouble putting their own stuff together at the moment to like really fit it cohesively. So rather than do that all fully, and then once they're in a good point, then they can start crossing over with stuff if they want to. I mean, mostly just Spider-Man, right? But yeah, that's kind of what we want. So yeah.
Yeah. There's other stuff regarding season 2. Apparently the Defenders might come back, yada, 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 but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see when it actually happens. But yeah, I think that's it for this episode. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Good sir?
No, that's about everything.
All right, so thank you guys for listening to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 159. We'll see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
See ya.